right. Yeah, it was in the international bar we were playing at,
That's right.
which is only
So it was,
about 20 meters away. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, so it
Yeah,
worked out perfectly. We could do the interview right before our gig.
yeah.
So we just got bumped off Facebook, and it's going live again now. I wonder, is it because I was playing a recording right before every day I go on, I play some recordings just to make sure everything's working. So people will they're going to be wondering why this is the first time this has happened now that we got bumped, but it happened right in the middle of that story. But we'll okay. I think people are picking up on it now. Sorry about that, everybody who was listening in and got bumped. We're back on here now. No idea why that is. Now there are people messaging me to. We got cut off 3 times. Looks okay now. Yeah.
That's the virtual world, gentlemen.
I know this is it. So what I would like to just see what I'd like to bring up was having met you the first time I met you in person, and probably is it the only time because not through any effort on your part, because you were great at staying in touch, John. I had these young children and there was a lot of stuff going on, so it was always hard for me to connect at certain times. You come through New York area around Thanksgiving a lot, and I would be out of town then. But I did meet you in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where my ex-wife was from, and I managed to escape the in-laws and went out to hear some music, and it was you and Jonathan Raganese, and I was struck when you were telling me that night about just basically I felt like you're the real deal in terms of a road warrior in music. You take the music to the people, right? It's you're not sitting around waiting on an agent to hook up. You're in the car going, and I'm just trying to imagine the planning and coordination that goes into making something like that work. Do you have a visual map in your head as you find gigs are coming up, you're working your way across? I'm just thinking in terms of the States before we deal with going outside now. But if you know you're going to be in the New York area doing the 55 bar or whatever around November, right? Are you looking at, okay, 2 weeks before that, I need to be in what we call Pennsylvania, right? Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Is that how you do it, or are you zigzagging?
It kind of varies, but basically, if you're not famous, which is most of us, you basically are able to travel if you have a network of friends and you're willing to try to coordinate, as you said, all these little details, David. So basically, if I know if I have one gig booked any place, then I'm talking to another 30 people within 1,000 miles of where I'm going, or 500 miles of where I'm going, depending on whether or not I'm flying or driving. And I'm usually, as you know, staying with the people that I'm playing with because they're kind enough to put me up. So until 2 months ago, I was on the road between 7-9 months of the year doing this, out of the country sometimes, and then East and West Coast primarily, sometimes up into Canada. I've worked a bit in Asia, all over Europe. But I tell musicians who are interested in touring, anybody really can do it if you wanted to start with a small network of friends and are willing to put in the effort to grow your network. And with the internet, that's a whole lot easier. So basically, Hugh and I met through mutual friends. Now we've had 2 really great visits in Dublin. I'd love to come back and see him there again. Maybe we'll get him to the States, and et cetera, et cetera. He's been down to Argentina too, so he's traveled as well, as you have. So basically, with a network of friends, we try to help each other and build these connections. And the beautiful part of that is you're working with lots of great musicians. You get a chance to see a pretty good chunk of the world. You don't need a manager or an agent to do this. You just have to be willing to do the necessary follow-up to try to make some things happen. And there are cancellations and frustrations and problems, and it's not super lucrative, obviously. In my case, I'm just kind of getting by and saving a little. But I've had a chance to do this all over the world just with a network of friends like you guys to make it happen. But it is a salesman's mentality. You've got to be willing to do the follow-up to try to make it work.
I know I speak for a lot of people who would love to be able to echo what I'm saying here. It's really admirable the way you put it all together, because you, in fact, one who just signed in now, is that we were talking about this the other night. Ronan Guilfoyle was just saying,
How's Ronan? Hey,
he was
Ronan.
saying exactly the same thing. Saying that the way you network and put it all together. But you know what? You know what I find so refreshing about it is when you live in New York in a certain period here, and I know this is where you're from, John. You're from this area,
Yes,
right?
originally, yes.
Living here, particularly in the 90s, there was a very you couldn't escape the business side of just trying to play jazz. You either had to have a CD out on a label at a certain level to get to play in a particular club, and to get the CD on that label, you had to be playing in this particular club. So there was this loop that all of a sudden you're being forced to focus on, these kind of business things that just get in the way of the music, and they're not always positive energy to, when you want to sit down and practice and learn and enjoy the beauty of making music with other people. And somehow then you get somebody who to me, you found a way to, like, you're known all over the world. You mightn't be in the estimation of the guys who are moving the chess pieces, a power broker, but there's not, you're on a bus in Argentina, for God's sake, and the guy asks you, are you John Stowell? And that's your guitar playing, and the way you reached out to make music with people has gotten that for you. And I know there's a version of, it takes a certain business acumen to stay on top of, putting all the connections together, but it's not a business thing. In your case, it's a personality and a personal thing that there's a gravitas. People really like you and they respect you so much. So I just want to, on behalf of the silent people who can't echo what I'm saying, I've just so much admiration for the way you conduct your musical life. That was a long-winded way of saying the last sentence, but
I sure appreciate it, David. I think basically what it is, though, is us helping each other. And I'm grateful for every little connection. And mostly I'm playing for smaller audiences. I'm very seldom play for more than 100 people. Very often it's 20 or 30. You and I have done some great little gigs together. And I hope we'll have another opportunity in the future here. That would be great.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So basically we build these connections. It's a small grassroots network that I built. And you're grateful for every single gig, every opportunity to connect with somebody. And I think one of the things that the internet has done is sort of democratize all this, so we can reach out and make up the connections that we were not able to make in the old days of phones and faxes. So thankfully with YouTube and your website and things like this, Facebook Live, I'm going to put in a couple of quick plugs before we're done today for some things I have coming up, and maybe you guys do as well. So basically this allows us to reach out to folks all over the world in a way that we were not able to do before. So that has made my life a little easier in terms of trying to make some of these connections. But now these days I'm off the road, for the last 2 months, and
this must be weird for you.
Yeah, this is the longest I've been. This is the longest I've been at home for. I can't remember how long it's been since I've been at home for 2 months. So I'm used to moving, and used to making. And so I can't really talk to anybody about work in the immediate future. Maybe I'll get out before the end of the year, but maybe not. So I'm just trying to use this time to expand my presence online, maybe like you guys are.
So do you do a lot of this type of thing? Again, I'm trying to paint a picture for people of where you maybe would be playing in one particular town in a particular state, and you're going to drive 500 miles or whatever, 2,000 miles or something to the next. Mm-hmm. Do you rent a car and do the one-way, rent it in this state, drop it off in another state?
I don't do rental cars that often. If I'm driving with my own car, I go up and down the West Coast. I live in Portland, Oregon. Right. And I'll drive as far as Tucson or Phoenix or Edmonton, Alberta. That's the farthest I'll drive with my own car. And, I won't do that in one day, obviously. I'll go to the Bay Area in a day. That's about 11 hours. I usually do that twice a year, but maybe not this year. Seattle's close. Vancouver, BC is pretty close. So I can tell you within 20 minutes the drive time between here and any one of these destinations, because I've been out here now for more than 40 years. So I'll do the car, my own car on the West Coast. My girlfriend, Louise, lives in Vermont. So we'll use her place as a base. And I'll do Montreal, New York, Boston, Eastern Pennsylvania. I have gone as far south as DC or West Virginia or Virginia, but I haven't done those places as much.
So you said Vermont is where you're.
Yeah, she lives in Vermont.
So
she's about 2 hours west of Boston.
Do you have a car located there for driving the East Coast?
She's been super generous with the use of her car. Sometimes, usually she'll come with me if she can, or I'll rent a car. So I'll use the East Coast as a base for maybe 3 months of the year. And then I typically try to get to Europe for a couple of months in the fall. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that this year. So when I've seen Hugh in the past, it's usually been in the fall because I'll go over there for a couple of months. Argentina, I have not done in the last couple of years because of the economy, but I do hope to get back down to South America at some point. I bet they'd like to see you there too, Hugh, again. And I've been a bit in Asia. Yeah, all our friends would be happy to see you there too. I think they're all fine, but the economy is pretty tough down there for obvious reasons. And I've worked a bit in Asia too. I was there about a year ago, and I hope to go back there maybe next year. But again, it's just a little network of friends. It just takes one person, as you guys know, as a way to kind of enter a particular market. And then once you get there, you meet other people. So that's how I've been doing this for the last 40 years, these little grassroots tours.
So Hugh, do you want to, as I always call this, throw the other camera angle on this now with the Dublin, you connect with John Stowell, and I know you would have been really happy having him coming to Dublin. We all of us guitar players know that he's dealing with a whole different, brings a whole different bag of tricks to the equation, right?
He certainly does, yeah.
And maybe even multiple bags, I might say. But, so can you kind of take us back to when you would have first connected via email, I'm guessing, is it, with John?
Yeah. My memory's a bit shady on a lot of things these days. I don't know.
Whatever you can't remember, make it up.
John's memory seems to be a lot more precise than mine. But I think it was John who contacted me.
That's right.
It was through a guitar player in Argentina, Daniel Corzo. Is that correct? Yeah?
That's right.
Because Daniel Corzo had come to Dublin too. And or we did a few gigs around the country too. So he was friends with John, and he obviously mentioned me to John, and John contacted me and saying that he was going to be in Europe in the autumn or in the fall, and if it was possible to throw anything together, he'd be delighted. So lucky enough, I was able to get a few things. I think the first time he played was in JJ's.
That's right.
You remember JJ's? Yeah, that's gone now since John. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that place.
You're happy we had a chance to play there a couple of times.
Yeah, it was a really nice one. And I'm not sure, did we get to Belfast on that trip then, did we?
Yes, we did.
You played a bookstore, wasn't it?
That's right.
Alibi's bookstore, yeah. Yeah, that's a really nice gig.
He sold us short on the memory here, John.
I know it's starting to come. It started to come together. Yeah, so that was, and obviously it's very, when these things happen, living on the island of Ireland, it's always nice to have someone, especially of John's caliber, to hang out for a few days and talk music and talk all sort of things. And John stayed with me as well, so it was great to obviously have him around. And we played a bit in the house and exchanged a few ideas. Well, most of the exchange would have been coming from John anyway.
Oh, I learned some things from you too.
Did you? What did you learn?
Of course I did. I think just when you converse with any different guitarists, there are always things. I mean, you and I both love harmony. We were talking about that. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's always something.
Don't sell yourself short.
Oh well, yeah. But there's one thing I do remember. The last trip, actually, there was an interesting night. It might have been your last night here, John. I don't know whether you remember what happened on your last trip here. There was an event that happened that sort of changed the world a little bit.
Oh yeah, I'll remember that for the rest of my life. Yeah. Funny story. So I'm in Hugh's bathroom. The night of the presidential election, we go to bed, and I'm inside the bathroom, and I say, Hugh, I'll be out in a second. So the door's between us. I'm still in his bathroom, and he says, you have a new president. So I'm waiting. He says, Donald Trump. I'm waiting for the And I said, please tell me you're joking. He said, no, that's your new president. So I go out of the bathroom with my mouth wide open, and we look at the TV to confirm what you told me. I remember that for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And then I remember for a couple of days after that, then every few minutes or so, you'd say, President Trump.
I still have trouble saying
and nod your head, But there you go. Yeah. I remember.
I was not the only person doing this.
You're in
No,
shock for a few
yeah.
days. All right. Yeah.
A few of us were, to put it
Some
mildly.
of us haven't recovered yet.
Nope.
You know, so yeah, that's
Okay.
that was a hard
Don't
one.
mention the word. Yeah.
That's it was a hard one to understand on so many levels. You know, but
Hey, back to music quickly. Do you remember that you
Yeah.
fixed a few gigs
Yeah,
for us
sorry,
with John
guys.
Feely? Remember with John
Oh,
Feely, those gigs we
oh,
did?
yes.
Weren't those great fun?
Oh, they were great.
Talk
Yeah,
about
they
that.
were. Yeah. Yeah. Galway. We did the Galway.
And we also did one in Dublin
uh,
at the Castle.
Oh, that's right.
We did
Oh,
two
that's right.
together, at least two.
it wasn't a
Yeah, that's
Malahide
right.
Castle, was it?
No, it was Rathfarnham Castle.
That's
Oh,
right.
was it? Yeah.
That's right, Rathfarnham. Yeah, it's coming back now. We
John,
did that.
have you had any contact with John lately? Wonderful.
I
wonderful
haven't seen
musician.
him. I haven't seen him in a while, in a couple of years maybe.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was an interesting one because I
was
remember
fun.
John had a couple of arrangements for us as well.
That's right.
Of O'Carolan tunes. O'Carolan's Dream, I remember, was one of them actually. And
That's right.
we sort of arranged it for 3 guitars, and that was really nice. Yes, yeah, that was an interesting mix of styles anyway. And
It was.
yeah.
So was
But
it
it
a
was
good
such a
good
buzz
sport,
knowing that John was? I'm trying to think about the first time that he would have been coming. Was were you really buzzed, looking forward to playing with him, and the very different approach that he would have
With John.
with John? Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know. John had a few jazz guitar lessons with Louis at one stage, I think, as well. So he had a little bit of understanding of that style as well. Even though he's a classical player, really, primarily.
You had
But,
lessons with Louis, John. Where did that happen?
Yeah, I think they might have
John
been.
Feely.
Oh no, John Feely. This
John
is
Feely,
yeah.
is it? Yeah.
I think they might have done an exchange. So John had an understanding of what was going on there as well. On the
Oh, he did
on
for
the
sure.
jazz side of things. Yeah. So it was a really nice. It really worked.
I thought he was an incredible good sport. I mean, he's got world-class classical guitarist known all over the world for his classical playing. And the fact that he was willing to play some jazz with us, I thought was just great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he did understand
tr-
some jazz. I thought he played. He
Oh,
really
that's-
could.
you
He
meant
really
John
could take a
Feely had
jazz
had
solo.
lessons with Louis
Yes.
early. Oh yeah, that
Oh,
was his
yeah.
first teacher. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Was it? Yeah. Yeah. Well, you
Remember-
probably know more about that. Yeah. But yeah.
Hugh, do you remember that we met Louis the first time I came? Because I had never met Louis. And he was playing someplace and we came to hear him. And I had a chance just to say hello to him and meet him. I was really happy.
Oh
that I had a
yeah.
chance
I
to
can't
say
remember
hello to
where it
him.
was, John, but I do remember you guys talking briefly. Yeah.
It was a club. He was playing a club someplace, or maybe he was just
Yeah.
sitting in and you and I went down. And just to be able to say hello to him and meet him and
Yeah,
tell him how much I
yeah.
enjoyed his playing, I was very happy to do that.
Yeah, it's a pity you didn't get to play together, you two. Would have liked to
Yeah,
hear that.
I sure
too,
liked his
but,
playing.
Yeah, he's a great player.
So
He
there's
was
many
really-
influences in that. Some of this I would know from having talked with you and having read some stuff. There's many influences to the way you approach the instrument, and it's probably there's certain people who pull off the kind of the pianistic approach where you can hear that type of thing quite. You'll hear it in. I know you like this because Hugh, when I was talking to Hugh about it, Hugh told me that you had mentioned it to him. Lenny Bro playing Bill Evans' Funny Man is
Oh, yeah.
probably the closest I've heard to a guitar player playing like a solo piano in the style of Bill Evans. You have a very pianistic approach that I hear, but it's a very linear approach. And I was going to ask you, I think you studied with Jimmy Weibel early on, did you? Or did you?
I didn't study with him, but I met him and had the pleasure of just watching him play a little bit and spending some time with him. My friend Sid Jacobs, and you guys probably know about Sid. Sid studied also with Jimmy. Sid's about our age. And so Sid introduced me to Jimmy, although I had been aware of him for a while before I met him. So I had a chance to go to his house a few times. So I would say maybe kind of informal studying where I was able to ask him some questions and just watch him do some of these marvelous etudes and improvisations that he would do. And watching him gave me the sense of how he at least used double stops and some of the interior voice movement a little bit. So I haven't actually copied him per se, but that style, that approach has influenced mine for sure. And he was a very gracious gentleman, just a very sweet man who loved other guitar players and loved to support other guitarists. And I'm so happy I had a chance to spend a little bit of time with him. He was still in good health when I met him, probably in his late 70s, early 80s, and lived for probably another 10 years. and did a bit of touring at the end of his life and was still teaching and playing beautifully in his 80s.
So in your early years, who would have been your biggest influence on the guitar, first of all?
On the guitar, well, in jazz, my teacher was a man named Link Chamberlain in Connecticut, who was kind of an unsung hero of the guitar. And I don't sound anything like him. He sounded more like John McLaughlin, very fast, but he was a wonderful teacher. And I still use some of the approaches that he gave me, and I still credit him because he's not so well known. He mostly stayed in Southern Connecticut, didn't tour much, had a real active
Louis
teaching
had one
practice.
of his albums. I remember saying.
Yeah, he did. He did 2 records.
And
he
Louis
did
had one that was serious technique. I remember.
Yeah, he had a lot of technique, but he was a wonderful teacher. And one of the things that I think, one of the lessons I took from my studies with him that I try to impart to my own students is try to find your own voice. By all means, listen and copy to get vocabulary, but try to find your own way. So that really stuck with me when I studied with Link. And so in terms of early influences in jazz, I'd say probably Jim Hall is one of my very favorites, still is, just in terms of his use of space and how lyrical he was and how he created such beautiful conversations in his group because of all the space and the way he chose to interact conversation with the other folks he played with. So Jim, for sure. I love Wes, although I don't sound anything like him. I sure love what he did and just his approach to the instrument. And from the more pianistic standpoint, as I got a little farther along in my studies, certainly people like Lenny or Jimmy Weibel. Ted Green is another one I love, who's also primarily a teacher, but an incredible player. So those are all folks that I love on the guitar.
So when you listen to John playing Hugh, who do you think of in terms of, like, he's obviously got, everyone knows he's got his own approach, but do you hear,
he sounds like John Stowell for sure.
Yeah. Do you hear any kind of
very like him? Yeah.
Do you hear any kind of where you find yourself think, oh, I wonder did he come from this? Was this the platform that he kicked off from, or like who do you think? Like I think Bill Evans as well with you, John.
I'd say Bill Evans and Jim Hall and people like that. But it's so original that it actually sounds like something different to me a lot of the time. Obviously you can relate anything to an influence, I suppose, really. But I suppose the approach, some of the chord voicings and things like that sound, Bill Evans-ish. And there's a little bit of the Lenny Bro there as well. I hear some things like that, and the approach. So yeah, it's a mix of all those influences he said, really, and then something else as well that
something
he
else
has
that
has evolved there.
Those people, yeah.
I mean, John yourself. I mean, you were one of the few sort of people who really have a very distinctive voice. Really, where I'm saying it's hard to really locate exact influences, but I mean, to what would you attribute that? Like your originality. I mean, did it start very early that, or was it something that just evolved over a long time? And because it is a very individual. Even the way you hold the instrument actually is, is very different, and technically how you play the instrument is very different.
Yeah, I can comment on that. I think probably the guys of our generation who are original, most of them would tell you the same thing, that they listened, but they chose not to copy. And I think also it helps if you have maybe kind of eclectic taste, so you're not necessarily trying to sound exactly like anybody else even in the beginning. So some little voice in my head said, listen, but don't copy. Try to find your own way. So I just had to kind of create my own vocabulary, and there's still little holes in it as a result, and I'm still trying to fill in all these years later. But, I think basically you can't really plan how you're going to be original. It just has to evolve somehow.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And, some of the guitar players of our generation that have an original voice, like Metheny or Schofield or Bill Frisell, the folks that you can recognize right away. Actually, Metheny did do a lot of transcribing, but I think some of the other folks, John Abercrombie, Schofield, I don't think they transcribed. So I think maybe it makes it a little easier if you're not trying to create your own variations from something that you've learned from someone else already. You just have to try to create your own vocabulary somehow. And that's obviously some listening so that you have some sense of the tradition, but you're just trying to find your own melodies in there somehow. And it's kind of a hit and miss process of slowly trying to feel how to create your own sense of how to improvise through the changes. So you're using the same theory everybody else is. You're just trying to find your own melody somehow. So it's a hit and miss process that takes some time.
What's interesting to me, John, is that we all know that, say, with Lenny Bro, besides his pianistic thing, he had so much other stuff going on in his playing, like even the country
True.
influence. But there's that great
right.
photograph of him playing with Bill Evans, where he sat in, and apparently it wasn't the magic everyone thought it would be, because Lenny had been so influenced by Bill. But the conversation was his influence of Bill would play his way and Lenny would play his. Probably showing respect, or maybe paying respect to a master in his eyes. Now, it didn't stop them becoming great friends, because
I didn't realize they played together.
they did. There's a photograph of them playing together, and those now, of course, were reliant on somebody's account of it, that they say it didn't go to the way that, like, I'm finding myself thinking I'd love to have heard those two together, because when you hear somebody playing with somebody they admire so much. And well, apparently, Bill Evans, when you think about those two albums that he did with Tony
Jim?
Bennett,
Those are good
but
too.
actually the ones with Tony Bennett, there's one in particular with The Touch of Your Lips, and it's a great favorite of mine, the way Bill plays behind him on that. He recommended to Tony Bennett to make an album with Lenny Bro. It just never happened because of stuff that was going on. Lenny missed the call or something like that. But I think it's very interesting that Bill recommended him for it. Now, insofar as Hugh and I both we would recognize that Lenny would be in there and an influence, I think if you were playing with Lenny, there's no way that situation I described there would happen, because you might have been influenced by him, but you've so much of an individual thing of your own already going at that stage,
Right.
that it would be, you're somebody who collaborates all over the United States and all over the world, so you must have this great ability to adapt to whatever is going on musically in the situation. So I can't see it not being a great experience for both you, and if Lenny and you had played. Did you ever
No,
get to
I
play
never
with
met
him?
him.
Actually? You never met
No,
him?
we had a lot of mutual friends, especially in LA, but elsewhere too. But I never met him. But some of my LA friends, I have a funny story that John Pisano told me, actually. And John is still playing great at 89, still actually teaching and playing. But John knew Lenny pretty well. And there's a story of him picking up Lenny for a workshop at a college. And I think maybe even having to get him out of bed. I don't know how early it was, but Lenny was just kind of dragged out of bed, didn't even want to take his guitar. So someone handed him a guitar, and John taped the clinic. Someone just put a guitar in his lap, and Lenny probably woke it up 45 minutes earlier. And Lenny sounded just amazing on a bar guitar, not even a 7-string, just someone handed him a guitar and put it in his lap. And he had all these beautiful things with fourths, and then his arrangement of a country tune where he'd go through a straight country interpretation and a modern jazz interpretation. And, that's as you touched on earlier, David. I think the reason he was so original is because he had all these different influences that he could sort of synthesize into an approach. So he could play straight up classical, flamenco, country, jazz, all those things. And so I think that kind of informed his approach to playing, because he just had all these different influences that he could kind of mix together in such a beautiful way.
He did. Yeah, it'd be one of my favorites to listen to now when playing.
Yeah.
Playing jazz.
You know the documentary that his daughter produced? It's quite
I
nice.
do. Yeah. It's, and
They didn't really know each other when she was
version of
around.
it, right? There's a newer
I haven't
version.
seen that.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
I've yet to see it. That's my bad, because there's some extra stuff in there.
Right.
But I did know Dan Doyle. It's a famous name for us in Ireland. There was a singer called Danny Doyle. Dan Doyle, who produced the solo album live in New York. He was a good friend of Terry Dunn's. You will remember him, the guy who owned Tramps in New York. So Dan Doyle was. I remember him telling me some of he produced Danny Gatton albums as well. So in fact, in terms of just remembered now, he was putting me on an album on Atlantic that was there was one called New York Stories that had come out, and Danny Gatton had played on it with.
I know about that record.
You know about that one, right? So he was going to put me on the follow up to that, and while I look back on it, I wasn't the guy. I wasn't the guy to be on that because somebody like Danny Gatton was coming from another, but it was going to be Mulgrew, and I was going to be on there, and he was. It never got past the starting blocks, but
That's too bad.
and well, maybe I would have surprised myself in that kind of company and not completely imploded. And maybe
Mulgrew was a sweetheart. Mulgrew was a sweetheart. I met him
know.
once. He was and a terrific piano player. Maybe you knew him.
I got I worked with him on Jeremy Pelt's recording. I did the string arrangements, so so it was a wonderful experience working with him. Yeah, Hugh and I were kind of connected with that whole Memphis crew, right? We were, once you were friends with one, you were embraced by the whole lot of them. They
so many good musicians out of Memphis.
Family. What's that?
So many good piano players out of Memphis. James Williams, Mulgrew, Finest Newborn, Donald Brown, all from Memphis. Harold Mayburn, all from Memphis.
Donald Brown, they love from there.
Yeah.
So, a great writer.
Charles Lloyd is from Memphis too. All these important jazz musicians coming out of Memphis.
Yeah.
Funny, huh?
So here's a question for you: when you tour around the States and you play in different parts, and is there a state that you haven't ever been to, or have you been in all of them?
Not all. I've probably been in maybe 75% of them. I haven't worked South Dakota. I haven't worked Alabama. I haven't worked Mississippi. So not so much in the Southeast. I don't know if I worked Georgia, North and South Carolina, Florida for sure, New Orleans one time just for a conference. But I don't work much I usually work on either coast. I was just in Arkansas, actually. I had a great time in Florida. So maybe I'll go back to those places. But in my case, since I'm not an in-demand guy who's touring big festivals, I just have to meet somebody who lives there and then I go there. So it's just kind of one contact at a time, guys, very grassroots. But if someone says they want to have me for a gig or a workshop, I'll make it happen.
That means you're an in-demand guy. Somebody says that, so you can take that out of your vocabulary right now.
Yeah. It's a small group of people in a lot of places, guys. I'm not playing big concerts or festivals.
You're a very modest guy and you're a very humble guy, but you have to know that we know differently. We know that you're so respected in a broad spectrum, and it really is very endearing, John, that you see yourself that way. But just know that I will get back to my original question here, but I want you to, look, there's a certain kind of level of if somebody who's making a living playing music that has a dwindling population of people listening to it. So that's the odds that, if we listen to the Billboard people, and that thing where they said jazz has just come out as being the least popular music, and great, you had to put that in print and say that we're already fighting enough stuff. But what I find is there's always people there to hear good music, and you do a little bit differently because you take it to them. So the question that I want to put to you on this, like having traveled around, say 75% of the country, and I want you to leave out the idea of somebody's proficiency on their instruments. Like if you were playing with a rhythm section that maybe weren't cutting it. Let's say, for argument's sake, they're all cutting it. They all sound wonderful. Do you notice a big difference on where the beat is placed?
A little bit.
Typically,
this. Yeah, in New York, if you count it off, the drummer comes in where you counted it off. Some other places, it's a teeny bit slower, and that just reflects the lifestyle. I mean, they're good musicians in some cases in very small towns who play beautifully, but I think probably the energy level is a bit higher in the Northeast just because that reflects the pace around New York, But as Hugh knows, they're great musicians in Argentina, in Dublin. They're great musicians all over the world. It's just a smaller group of musicians. I say one thing I noticed right away playing with Hugh is that we both tend to be a little on top of the beat, and I'm not sure if that's an Irish thing too, but I tend to like, especially if there's not a rhythm section, it's fun to be a little bit on top because then things never slow down. You feel like you're floating as opposed to trying to push the time forward. And I noticed that right away about Hugh, that we share kind of this feeling of the placement of the eighth note.
So
did you feel that too, Hugh, when we played?
Yes, yeah. You can hear that, yeah.
Would that vary according to the tempo of tunes?
Not really. No, I mean, typically, again, if you count something off in some places, then it's not a negative comment on those other musicians. It just reflects the lifestyle.
I'm not taking it that way either. No, I'm more kind of curious that where the beat has been placed. But I had this conversation with Dennis McCrell a few years back,
Great
and
drummer.
he talked about conducting one of the big bands in Germany that he was it the WDR? Was that the one he was?
Yeah, there are 4 or 5 bands and 4 or 5
uh,
good radio bands in Germany. That's one of them for sure.
he was the music director for one of them, and he said that
Okay.
that so New York, they're kind of while they might come in where you count them, there's at a medium tempo the behind the beat thing is big big with a particular generation of New York player, and so he gave his account of what he thought in different parts of the States, but he said the band in Germany could tune to tune could go either way. They could do whatever, and he just felt it was, I suppose he was trying to say that he doesn't look on it that you come from this place because you're going to place the beat a certain place all the time. But I remember when I was in Nashville for the Chet Atkins anniversary festival. You know the thing they have every year, Chet Fest.
Of course.
That day. And I was at a jam session in a collector's house, and I felt there's some incredible music being played by these guys, but they were definitely laying on a different part of the beat. And they were very kind to me about where I was on the beat. They were enjoying that I was laying it back in a certain kind of way. They kept talking about the phrasing. But I got to play that night with Howard Alden. And
Howard's great.
And he was the same as you. He's got some harmonic stuff going on that nobody else is doing. And I felt like I could go all night with the stuff he was playing underneath me. It was so supportive.
Howard's a little on top. Howard's a little on top also.
But now I'm talking about when he was comping. He was actually
in a good way.
Yeah.
He's a very good accompanist.
Amazing accompanist. So that's a kind of an interesting thing. So you get to you go to Argentina and you play with a rhythm section down there playing maybe standards, and that do you notice a kind of a particular placement of the beat? Are you aware of it, or do you think about it?
I'm definitely aware of it. I mean, we all are, I think. And there's one drummer in particular in Buenos Aires who's actually played all over the world named Oscar Junta. And he's right on top, just like the New York guys. He's wonderful. In fact, he filled in one time with no rehearsal for Terry Lynn Carrington and Wayne Shorter's band because she got stuck in Chile when the volcano blew off. No rehearsal. Jump into that band with Danilo Perez, John Patitucci, and Wayne. And everybody loved the group and said Oscar played great. And I haven't heard him play in that way, which is so much more open. I think of him as more of a swinger, but I wasn't there for the gig, but I saw him shortly thereafter, and he's a sweet guy and a wonderful drummer. We played a bit together, and he could definitely hold his own with anyone in New York with a rhythm section. So, I think it's maybe more a matter of the individual musician. So, when you generalize, you tend to sometimes shortchange a little bit or not accurately reflect what each individual musician is doing. But I'd say in general, the energy in the northeastern part of America is a little different from other parts of America. That doesn't mean to say you don't meet great musicians all over the place, really, as I said.
No, it affects other things. So you get back to, I remember going back to Ireland with Fernando, who you and the gang, Fernando and Adelicio, and saying that, I remember Fernando said about 2 days in, have you lost the New York twitch yet? Just been so hyper all the time. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But you know what I think is, I think we're living in an age now with playing music that it's like there are people that have, do you remember they used to say, Hugh, that you're going to the States, if you're going to drive, you'll need an international driver's license. You know, that kind of thing. Well, I think I'm borrowing this one from Paul Moore, actually, that I remember him talking about what he wanted to do as a studio bass player, to be able to play, to be like somebody who had an international driver's license. And I think that's what kind of happens. Like, if anyone has an international driver's license, it's John Stowell here. But,
yeah, for sure.
I'm going to play. There's something here of you guys playing in Dolan's. I see a video. Will we have a listen to you two playing together?
Really? Yeah, Dolan's.
I don't remember that. Do you? I don't remember that being recorded. Do you?
No.
Limerick Jazz. John Daly, if you're listening, you're in a lot of trouble here. Or is this just a... is it a video or how deep is the ocean being played by? It might be.
Is
just
this in
you and-
duo, David?
No, actually, this looks
With the
like
group?
it might be just you. They have two separate videos of you. Okay, let me go back to the drawing board on this and take.
If there's one with the two of us, let's find that if you have it.
I have Music Maker here.
Let's listen to a bit
How
of that.
deep is
I'd
the
love to hear the
ocean?
two of us. Perfect.
There's So let's do that one, and
Perfect.
there's going to be a little bump here as I get the screen sharing thing happening.
No worries.
This is still. Let me just stop this and see. Is
Actual video.
it a video? Yeah, it should
Stills.
be. Let's start this
It's just
again.
stills.
because There was an audio. There's a few stills at the beginning.
It's just stills, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. I'll fire the technical team. Beautiful, gentlemen.
That was 12 years ago. That was the Music Makers. Interesting.
Wow.
Trying to get out of whatever.
I was on the first trip then, obviously, John. Yeah.
I think so, yeah, in '08, yeah.
John, you wanted to mention, and I'll tell you why I'm bringing this up now. You wanted to mention some upcoming live stream or Facebook Live things that you're doing. And then
if you wouldn't mind, that'd be great.
Please do.
I realized as we're talking that it could be a little early in the morning for our European friends, but maybe some other folks. I've also got a YouTube channel up and running now, and I think we have a few of our things up there too. So if anyone would subscribe, and I'm happy to return the favor to either one of you, because we can get it up to a certain level, we get to monetize. So it's one of my little crusades lately, because I didn't have my own channel until recently. So I've got plenty of things that are running already with ads in front of them, but I don't get any money from those. So we should all have our own channels if we don't already, for obvious reasons, because YouTube can be a nice resource. And I've got a Facebook Live concert coming up this coming Saturday evening, my time. So it'd be kind of the middle of the night for you, Hugh, unfortunately. But if you're up late, David, you might be interested, because it'd be like 11 p.m. your time on Saturday. So if you, that would be your probably, if you're up, Facebook Live at 11 p.m. your time Saturday night. So Hugh, that would be your, by 8 p.m. You're going to be asleep.
What time it would be?
I'll try to do.
Ireland time?
It's 8 p.m. I think are you 8 or 9 hours ahead of me? I think you're 9 hours ahead. So that'd be the middle of the night for you, like 5, 6 in the morning. So that wouldn't work this time.
Sometimes I'm up at that time, actually.
If you happen to be awake with the sun coming
up. John, can you put me on the guest list?
I'm happy to. Yes. You can check with the doorman. You guys will be on the guest list.
Is it
great?
Can you do a +1 just in case I get lucky between now and then? Or
absolutely, I'd be happy
I can find somebody who'll go and sit 6 feet apart from me.
There we go.
Most people have been willing on dates to sit 6 feet away from me.
Yeah. Well, I hope we'll be able to get back playing live with each other fairly soon, but this is our reality for now, guys. So, we should all be doing these. And I think I've only done one so far, but I had about 130 people show up. So it was something. And I was happy to play for everybody. So,
well, the reason I mentioned
you done one yet, Hugh?
Fact.
No, I haven't, John. No.
Yeah.
We have a few people going to join us shortly, and actually, two of them who are waiting there, Nell and Hugh, who both did a performance. Different Hugh. There's going to be 2 Hughs on here. They both did performance just earlier for Stephen Keogh's Global Music Foundation, and I mentioned to Stephen that he should be talking to you about doing one. He tickets them. People buy a ticket, and it's reminding the daily drum I beat that we need to remind people to pay in for a concert. And Hugh, I'm assuming you're going to be coming up at some point soon on
some stage. Yeah, John, you should definitely do one of those, John.
I don't know, Stephen. I'd be happy to talk to him if he's interested. Absolutely. Maybe you can send me his contact information.
Nell, who sang today, and Hugh, who accompanied her, are going to join us now. Just to say
Great.
hello. They're very wonderful.
And maybe we can do a
Thank
little
you.
music today if you'd like. If you'd like live, I've got my trusty guitar standing by. If you want to hear
we'll,
something
Great.
at some point, we'll do that.
and
You
we'd
too,
like to
Hugh. I'd
talk
love to hear
about
you
that
play
instrument.
something.
Yeah. Hello, Nell, and hello, Hugh. I listened in earlier on.
Hello, thank
Hi,
you.
how you doing?
So I know from earlier, because I've this is like having a little cheat sheet. They're coming to us from York, and right,
Yeah,
and you performed earlier on for the Global Music Foundation online concert series. So this is the first time, definitely, since I started doing this, that we've had two Hughs on the same show.
yeah. It's very rare I meet another Hugh.
Yeah. Hey,
Great.
Hugh.
Hey.
Mel.
How often do you get to say that? Hugh
Yeah.
Buckley. So we have John Stowell here, wonderful guitar player. Hugh Buckley, great guitar player, and Nell. And is your last name Klein? Is it? What is your
No, it's
Godley.
Begley.
Begley. I'm
Begley.
sorry, because there's Nell Begley and Hugh Vincent, right? This is what happens when you have senior moments like I do. So welcome, thanks for dropping in. Do you want to tell us a
Thanks
little
for
bit
having
about
Thank
us.
you.
both of you? We'll go with you, Nell, first. Just tell us a little bit about your. I had the advantage of hearing earlier, but you sing a few different styles of music, right? You're involved in a few.
Yeah, so like a main focus of mine is jazz standards, and especially of around like 40s style music. But I'm also really interested in a lot of Brazilian music, and I write music which works with like a lot of electronics, and a lot of free improvisation as well. So a lot of very varied things, but I enjoy being able to have the opportunity to work with all of that kind of music.
So
So
just to kind of let everyone else know, well, the two of you are quarantined together, and but you don't perform together mostly.
no.
This is a new thing. So Hugh, your musical path is what? Have you give us some sort of idea of the
Yeah, so I grew up here. This is my family home in York, and I kind of just consumed all my parents' CDs, and amidst them there was some crazy music there, but there was Charlie Parker, there's Charlie Christian, John Coltrane, and then just a load of like random things, and that they were the only jazz records we had. But it just really captured my attention when I was growing up because I learned, Mozart and Bach on the piano, but never any jazz. And then I heard those records, and I was like, "Oh, I've got to learn this." And then a friend of mine started playing like New Orleans style piano, like kind of stride but boogie-ish as well. And I loved that. And then I got onto Oscar Peterson and just followed it all the way. Yeah, and jazz is just a music that I always come back to, really.
Yeah.
And
So
it's the same for now.
so Hugh studied at Birmingham,
Yeah,
and I studied at Leeds Conservatoire. And then since then, I think we've both done music which is of different genres. So Hugh's more into electronic music now,
yeah.
but it's always kind of a foundation for both of us.
Yeah, obviously, like with all the harmony and rhythms that you pick up through jazz, it gives everything else you do such a nice
so
sensibility.
you listen to all the stuff coming up, but your main area of operation is electronica and very much more contemporary. Nobody would have guessed that when you heard the set you played earlier on, given that you've
Oh,
both,
thank you. Yeah.
especially with the fact that you don't work together that often by design. They both moved to London within the last 6 months, was it, to a year, and
That's right,
decided
yeah.
to musically keep independent pathways. But Bruce Bart earlier on made reference to the fact that the way you played behind Nell, that the way you reference styles from that particular era. So that's what I mean. You could never tell that like the fills you were doing were appropriate to the era. You know, sometimes you'll have people playing a song from the 40s and playing. It's very hard not to play some of the more modern harmony. And
Yeah. I'm kind of the other way around. I find that stuff harder. Yeah.
You've got plenty of time.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Start at the beginning.
So John here, we're just saying, is somebody who, you know, we guitar players recognize him for having a very individual approach to the instrument. And I was just kind of curious, John, that when you're traveling, because you're traveling most of the time, how do you manage? Do you have such thing as a structured practice routine when you're traveling the way you are, or is it just grab and get it whenever you can?
That's right. That's because sometimes there's not a lot of time for practice. So sometimes the practicing just happens when you play. And I love all the different conversations. And I'd love to hear you, Hugh, and Nell sometime. Maybe if I can find you online. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have another concert as well. At some
Yeah,
point.
we'll have to record some stuff together so you can hear it.
I'd love to hear what you're doing.
I know you're by the way you're set up now, and how late it is there. It's probably too late to be playing music live.
Yeah, right now.
We'll probably get a noise complaint.
Yeah, so I get those even during the day from my kids.
Yeah.
Us too.
But Stephen said he'd be joining us as well, I think. So
Yeah,
I'll get to introduce
I believe
him.
he'll be here shortly.
Hugh, did you want to ask John about anything, you know, regarding the guitar approach? So it's not just coming from my mind all the time.
No,
You know,
well, I have asked them a few things there. Really, there's nothing really that comes to mind, and we have discussed it at length or a lot of those things, and we were chatting recently. But I have nothing straight off that comes to mind really, except my curiosity as to how his style evolved, like, you know, really, you know, because it is, you know, as you keep on saying, there's such an original voice, you know, on the instrument. But it's, yeah, that's what interests me there, and nothing else at the moment, you know. No.
Well, I'll throw one in then. You hear a song from either a standard that you've never played, like an obscure song from the Great American Songbook. What's your process then, John? Do you try and track down a lead sheet to get the melody straight, or do you go by ear, or any of the above?
I generally start with a chart. I start with a chart usually, and I would agree with you that there are so many great obscure standards that are not played. I mean, the jam session tunes that we all love are just fine, but I'd say for the last 20 years, I've been focusing more on obscure standards. So Jerome Kern's last tune, Nobody Else But Me, one of my favorites. Did you know that one, Nell? Nobody Else But Me?
Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
yeah.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
It's a great one. Or Dream Dancing from Cole Porter's one I like. It's also
Yeah.
a great one. And these are not tunes that I would call it a session because even experienced players don't necessarily know them. Or Indian Summer or My Ideal or Soon. These are all tunes that I like to play that I wouldn't expect someone to know necessarily. So I'll bring lead sheets if it's at one of my gigs or a situation where I want to perform them with somebody. And I'm very
Those
open to
songs
other
you
people's
mentioned,
material too.
Which of those songs you mentioned was written by a Dublin songwriter? You
One
know
of those
where
is
I'm
written by
going.
a Dublin. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Which one?
Yeah.
I have no idea, guys. Enlighten me.
Anyone out there in Facebook land have any idea?
Yeah.
They've probably
One of those tunes I just mentioned is written by a Dublin songwriter.
written by
Yes.
Yeah.
Really? Well, it's not Cole
Impressed
Porter.
that Hugh knows this too. That's good. That's
He has a park in Dublin called after him too, I think, isn't he?
Really?
Is that right, Dave?
there's
In Baldbridge. Yeah, as far as I know, that is called after the same guy.
there's
Enlighten me, guys. I can't stand the suspense.
well, Indian Summer, right? Isn't that?
Yeah.
And
Indian Summer. Victor Herbert, isn't that right?
oh,
He's
Herbert,
Irish?
Is that named after him? Is it Victor
Herbert Park. I still believe now. Maybe someone was pulling my legs one day. But yeah, I think so. I think
So
it's
funny. That's
I
one of
don't
my
know.
favorite old tunes.
yeah, it's a great tune. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
where
Jim
did you
Hall
learn
used to like
that
to play
first?
it
Did
in
you hear
G.
Jim Hall and Ron Carter playing that first? Was that your
Yeah.
first?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he plays it in G. So I thought that's a good guitar key. I'll play it in G too.
yeah, I played
I
the G
played
too.
that many times with Gene Burton Senior in New York.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Great
great
old tune. Yes, it is.
Do you know that one, Nell? Indian Summer.
I'm afraid I don't, but that'll be one to listen to.
It's
Yeah, you'd have no
yeah.
trouble learning it, but it's a fun one though.
Lovely, lovely, great.
So you both
You know,
mentioned
else,
Nobody Else But Me. I remember when I heard that first, it would have been Peter Bernstein and Hugh, either via Hugh playing it for me, or and then Hugh recorded it, and it's such a great melody and great set of tunes. I was wondering, why is this not as famous as All the Things You Are and The Song
Yeah,
Is You?
yeah.
Mm.
And I was digging deep trying to find that out. And do you know, I'm just going, why do you think it is? And I'll tell you why I think it is in a minute. But do you have any idea why it's not listed among all the?
Well, I'd say maybe the lyrics aren't completely strong. They're a bit cheesy. I'm not very bright. He's not very bright.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a bit
but
tongue in cheek, isn't it?
the melody is absolutely gorgeous. I think that's such a shame with so many standards. I used to live with this bass player, Ros McDonald, and she'd just be like, "Oh, let's play this tune, let's play this tune," and
I have to
everyone she
stop you there. You
mentioned.
used to live with Ros MacDonald. Does she talk about anything besides buses?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
She was on this show one night when we were just first into lockdown with Arnie and Simiji, and all she talked about was which buses were still running and which weren't.
Yeah.
And
She's pretty nuts.
A character.
she, I was going to actually pause my part of the show and go call the local constabulary in Scotland and say, I think somebody might need some help over there. They say, you might want to send a bus because you won't leave in anything else. But no, my theory on why it is that Nobody Else But Me was in the revival of Showboat on Broadway. It was an extra song added
Oh,
for the purpose. So I'm trying to imagine who went to Jerome Kern and said, we need another number. we're a few minutes short. But what a strong
great.
melody. And
it's also his last tune.
His
I
last
didn't
tune, I
realize
think.
that part.
Yeah.
Didn't make sense. I
Yeah.
see Stephen's here, so we'll bring him in. He should be coming live now any minute. There he is.
Just had a very quick bacon sandwich, so I hope I'm not covered in.
That's okay. That's So, Stephen, I mentioned that you know Hugh, of course, and I mentioned earlier on that John Stowell, I thought you should meet because
How are you, John?
John literally travels
Stephen,
the
how are you?
globe playing music, driving. It's the real planes, trains, and automobiles
Yes, yeah.
with this guy. And we just figured out, you probably heard it, that Nell was living with Ros MacDonald for a while. I could do a whole show on that alone. But you do have. Does she talk about anything else besides buses? That is a kind of an important connection.
Of course she does. When I met Nell and Roz, must be 7 or 8 years ago, I think.
I think 6.
Okay, and they were both students at Leeds College of Music, and they both kind of stood out, and that's when we started doing some things together. But I don't think Roz was interested in buses at that stage. As she did as a person, I think she became more interested in them.
Yeah, I remember that night where they had broadcast saying number 5 no longer running. Yeah. So, Stephen, will you tell us a little bit about your perspective on Nell, and when you heard her first? Was it during a global music course or?
No, I was doing a workshop, I think, up at Leeds College of Music, and Nell sang a song, and I just, yourself, you recognize
Yep.
something. Oh, that's it, yes. And then I asked her to come to Italy. Was it the first time?
It was, yeah.
And then I've just been asking her back ever since.
So you do some teaching then, Nell, as well.
Oh, she's a great
Yeah,
teacher.
So have
so
you done some of
mainly
the? Go ahead.
sorry, just
I was just
mainly in
saying,
vocal
the
improvisation.
GMF workshops, is it? Sorry, we have a delay, I guess. Do you do some of the group classes at GMF as well as individual?
I do, yeah. So I work with group vocal improvisation mainly, and kind of like, I guess, body awareness when singing and circle singing. So yeah.
Well, I want to, John, are there any videos online of you playing solo guitar that I could maybe share?
Oh yeah, quite a few. Quite a few.
Do you want to type into the chat window a link on YouTube if you? And
Just go to my channel, and that'll get you there. I don't have my keyboard right in front of me at the moment. I've got the external mic here. But if you just go to YouTube, all
at
kinds
the
of stuff up
mention
there.
of John's channel, that gives it. We were talking earlier on about how you hit the magic number. Seems to be 1,000 before you can go into.
That's right.
Being able to monetize. So if you could subscribe to, if you go to any of the musicians here, do you have a channel, Nell, as well, a YouTube channel?
I do, yes.
So
We should all subscribe to each other's channels for sure, guys. Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Get the numbers up. Mine have risen from 5 to 15 in about the last week, but I have a Facebook page for this show, which I don't, on personal policy, I won't send somebody one of those messages that you get in the mailbox. David O'Rourke suggested you like David O'Rourke's blah, blah, blah. I think it's, that mass blast thing, despite the name of the show, is an invasion. But what I did was I put it, the other day I just said, if anyone feels so inclined, I put it as a post. And within a day, a lot of people really helped out. So thanks for doing that, anyone who did. So I'm going to just search here for John, and I'll tell you what I see in front of me, John, and we'll...
Yeah, there are all kinds of things there.
I'd
love to see samples of Nell and Hugh's work too. And Stephen, if you have things up, maybe we could all look at a little bit of each other's work.
Don't worry about Stephen or Hugh. We'll
Really.
Which Hugh are you talking about there, Dave?
Hugh Buckley.
There's two Hughs, remember?
That's right. Yeah, jeez, I better watch myself here.
Yeah, be careful.
These guys combined. Remembering the Rain, Bill Evans. Would that be a good one?
That's great.
Yeah, I just did that one at home a week ago. So,
Yeah.
And now that one has a lyric, by the way. Do you know this tune from Bill Evans?
I do know the tune. Yeah. I heard it sung though? I'm not sure.
It's got a lyric, and the Bill Evans fake book, probably 10 of those tunes have lyrics, and there's some spectacular ballads. Only Child, Remembering the Rain, Lori. You might enjoy singing some of them.
Do you ever play the show type tune or a tune for a lyric that he can?
Show type tune is a good one. Yeah, I mean, Bill wrote 40 or 50 songs, and there's not a bad one in the bunch.
That was one I really liked.
It's a little busy, but it's beautiful.
It moves around harmonically. But,
it does.
Okay, so this is might take me a little shot to get this.
Yeah, we don't have to listen to the whole thing. If we have to maybe just give the guys a little sample of what I'm doing. It's relatively short.
Well, this looks like a duo between. Is that the version? There's you.
I don't think I've done that as a duo with anybody. If it's Remembering the Rain, it's probably me alone.
There's a black and white photo of you and another guitar player.
Oh, that's just a photo for the page. That's not what's going to be. That's my buddy Sebastian who helped me put up the YouTube page. But I think the cut should just be me alone, David.
Okay.
There's one with me breaking down the tune. We'd probably want to watch that. The actual performance might be better. That's probably the one.
Well, you know what? That's a good time. Anyone who wants to understand John's approach to things, there you go. Go to his YouTube channel, like I just did right now, and help him get the numbers up. Come on, guys.
That would be great.
Hit the subscribe button. It's plain very simple.
That would be great.
I've already subscribed. You can see that, right?
Channel. Thanks for watching. So this is me in the living room a week
Music
ago,
of Bill
guys.
Evans, and many of his songs are well suited to the guitar because Bill liked to compose in the
So let
sharp
me
keys.
mute everybody for the
So
moment.
the tune I'm going to play for you, he wrote in the mid-1960s. It's a beautiful ballad called Remembering the Rain. I love playing that beautiful melody from Bill Evans. So thanks again for watching. If you liked this video, please share it. And I would be very happy if you consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Hope to see you all again soon. Take care.
Lovely.
There you go. We're all
Well, thanks for watching, guys.
It's beautiful, John.
We're gonna have a listen to something from Nell in a minute, but
Absolutely.
should
Like that melody, Nell?
Really lovely. Very, very nice.
I'd love to hear you sing that.
Well, I better learn it then.
It's actually quite singable.
She has the kind of
Melody.
pitch that could pull it off too. I heard her earlier on. She has that kind of pitch where there's no debate. You know, she's no matter what register she was in. Actually, just on that subject, do you work on singing different intervals as a study at all, or is nothing seemed to give you any trouble at all, no matter what the song earlier?
Yeah, I do. I've done a lot of work on interval training and working on different parts of my range, but I'd say like my main focus when I was studying was opening my lower range, because it didn't have much substance to it. And since doing that, I neglected my top a little bit, so I've been working a little bit more on my top range now. But it's a constant work that needs to happen. Otherwise, you can lose it, unfortunately, with your voice.
I remember my good friend George Mesterhazy, the late George Mesterhazy, when he had played with Shirley Horn in the last few years when she couldn't play for herself anymore. And I remember I had him in doing a workshop with some of the kids, and he just said he was never one to tell people don't do something. You know, there's a place for everything, but he just said when you're using, this is a female singer, when you're using your lower range vibrato, that you're now in the area that's for the most part the mid range for all the other instruments, and if they're playing any kind of close harmony at all, you're going to sound somewhere in between all that, rather. And he was just cautioning. Is that something that you ever have to think about when you mention your low register?
I guess it can get quite muddy, but usually I don't really have to worry about that too much, because usually I work with musicians who are quite attentive to where I'm singing, so they'll move kind of away from where I am.
There's a few singers listening in, watching in, different parts of the world. Josephine Smith in Cork, I'm wondering, if you want to type in, I wonder if that's something that, dealing with the low register. Cassandra Wilson was listening earlier, and she, her low register is pretty famous. So I'm wondering, Cassandra, if you have the same thing where you think about what role vibrato plays in your expression. Is there a conscious thought when using it, or is it something you work on? I'd put that to you now.
Well, I never think about vibrato. I never really think about it. I've been to a number of jazz workshops where people have said that's the one thing you need to be able to do at any speed or at any pitch. But it's not something I've consciously ever thought about. It just happens, really. And maybe I should do a bit more work on that, really. But
I'm inclined to think that it's something that happens with a lot of people. Maybe I'm wrong here. It's tied into the expression and what you're feeling in the song, but it's yeah, I don't know if when I ask questions like this, it's more out of curiosity. I don't know enough about what it takes to sound good singing I remember hearing somebody saying, "Don't sing in full voice" to somebody, and maybe the song required somebody singing in full voice at that particular time. But so Jeremy Sawkins has chimed in from Australia. Hi all. John Stowell is unique. Knocked me out in Sydney here in about 1980. I never got over his harmonic approach.
Thank you, Jeremy.
He lived in Dublin for a while, right, Hugh? Jeremy?
That's right, he did, Jeremy, yeah.
So you know him, Hugh.
Yeah, he's a fine guitar player himself, actually, yeah.
Great.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
Did
now
you remember that, John, do you? Sorry.
Video I have for you, Nell. There's two of them here, and I think I don't think they feature Hugh with you for the reason we stated earlier.
Yeah,
Because you
we haven't
guys
actually recorded
come
together.
so you're gonna record together. So, how about I play "Since I Fell for You,"
Great.
and
That would be
we'll have a
lovely.
listen to that.
So this was actually recorded at the last Global Music Foundation set of workshops, which was in Barcelona at the Jamboree. So it was very...
It's rough sound, but Nell still sounds great on it.
It's all right. It's we'll take what we can get.
You made me leave my happy home. You took my love, and now you're gone. Since I brings such misery and pain. I guess I'll never ever be the same since I fell for you. It's too bad, it's so sad, but I know I'm still in love before. Yeah, you love me, and then you snub me. Oh, and I'm still so in love. Oh.
There you go. Yeah.
Very nice.
That was,
Lovely.
Thank you very much.
that was even a different vibe from what you were doing earlier. It was,
Yeah, quite a bit bigger. I think I wasn't that dramatic tonight.
no, well, you're exploring another side. You know, you're dealing with the different dynamics that we have to play with now. Where, you know, you finish a song and you see these yellow hands go up on Zoom, right? These yellow claws hands, and it's. Or you see people in the camera going like this, and it's still. I know from when I did it last week with Stephen, it felt closer to. You know, I had wrongly said playing live on Facebook or something like that feels like a vacuum, going, but it didn't actually. I felt like there was an audience there. It was definitely not the same as playing. It was not the same as playing into, you know, not seeing anybody there. Sorry, I just we have Nell. You're not Irish. You're from the UK. Cassandra probably here's the Cassandra Wilson just said, "What a joy to see that Irish upper body relaxed and those tones released, free at last."
You have Irish blood though, right?
Well, I've got Irish blood, and this was asked last time on my, I think both my mum and dad's side. So my grandma is from Cavan.
From Cavan, okay.
Yes.
Keogh. That's the way they say it.
Cavan. I don't know.
That's how they travel home to draw. There'll be Keogh or be Navan because the bill was too deal here. Do you remember that, Hugh?
Yeah.
And there'll be no subtitles for that. Now, John, repeat everything I just said. That's
It wouldn't come out quite the
Wow.
same, David.
No, I don't think I could even repeat what I just said. But,
Dave?
yes, Stephen.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to, for anybody who's interested, the piano player was Pete Churchill. Do you know Pete?
Okay. Yeah.
He's the guy who finished and debuted the John. It's my head. The Miles Ahead project with John Hendricks.
Oh, okay. That's what you were talking about that recently. Cassandra just said when I said about, she said she hears it. She hears the Irish blood. She has it too, by the way. So that's what she's, she's in, I think, in the 20s in the percentage of Irish lineage. John, what's your? Do you have any idea what your ethnic background is, or the pathway to?
Mhm. Yeah, some English way back, but we showed up in this country in the, not quite on the Mayflower, but in the 1600s. So my ancestry goes back into America probably 400 years now,
Wow.
400 years.
Have you done that ancestry.com thing at all? Have you?
I have not.
interest in-
I had a distant cousin in the 20s who produced a fairly thick book going back to the 11th century. We had someone who was an assistant to William the Conqueror in the family. So he had a little too much time on his hands, this cousin of mine, I think.
English, then. That's Norman.
Yeah, some English, Stephen. Yeah, could be. Norman, I guess.
Which is Viking.
Maybe.
So the numbers change as you go along. I'm kind of curious. Maybe Cassandra will let us know, because I get updates on as more people go into the pool, they're comparing to a wider pool. But at first they were saying I was 85% Irish, and there was all sorts of other things going on. So now I came out as 97% Irish, and there's the Viking thing is there. There's a Norwegian, I think, for a couple of percent. Was it 92%? It was 3%. Anyway, did you ever do that, Stephen, at all? Did you? Those of us who live in the Dublin area are probably some among the few who will get numbers that are a bit different from the rest of the country, because we were always occupied. It was even when everyone else was driven out, the Dublin was still the Pale. That's where the Beyond the Pale expression came from originally. But you can also, if you have siblings in the family, they're going to get different results than you because it's 50-50 from each parent, but it's not the same 50-50. And a lot of the Irish claim Spanish heritage. That somebody once said if it was to be completely true, there would have to be about 10,000 ships from the Spanish coming to help us. And I'm saying that because it is in my family. My brother Andrew got, and he sent me. He goes into all that stuff. Hugh knows him. He sent me the list where there was apparently the O'Rourke's in Leitrim and Tiernan O'Rourke and all that particular gang. Apparently the Spanish sailors were hitting it off with the young maiden O'Rourke's. And that's where we think that the bloodline might have been changed. So Cassandra's not contributing to the. Do you know your percentage, Cassandra? Did it go up or down? Because one of my jazz musician friends told me that he started out with a high percentage of Irish and it went down as the results came in. So. Nell, we should take a look at your Facebook page too, right?
Yeah, brill.
Not Facebook. I meant to say your YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah, definitely. Well, there's probably more stuff on my Facebook, really, but the YouTube
that was just a
is
slip
still...
of the tongue on my part, but it's. Oh, you say there would be more. There you are with the Laurie Holloway trio.
That's right. Yeah. That's actually where I started singing, was with the Laurie Holloway trio. They have a brilliant jazz course in Maidenhead, which is for young teens around 14, 15, 16. And that's where I first started to sing jazz, really.
So Cassandra's numbers went up then, I think. 21. She was, I think, in the teens, I think, last time. So, okay. I'm lining these up for later. Rafe's Dilemma. Is that a good one to play? That was.
Yeah, totally. It's a slightly different feel. So this is a band that I write for with Jamil Sharif, and it's all based on a play called Spring and Port Wine, which is by somebody I cannot remember. He's a very influential writer from Bolton, whose name I've totally forgotten. But we were asked to write a piece of music which was based on his play, and that is one of the songs.
So in the order I'm going to do things here, that will be the second piece of music that you hear. I might play two back to back. I'm going to start with Love for Sale by Hugh and John playing together, because the one I played earlier on had stills of you guys. This is an actual video, right? Hugh.
It is, yeah, Dave, yeah.
Yeah, I think people might like to see a video of you guys playing together. And we could have a mail-in competition here. I want you to count how many times John opens his eyes. Right. We should talk about that. You play with your eyes closed virtually the whole time, right, John?
Mostly. I can just see the guitar neck in my mind. I don't need to look, mostly, unless I'm looking at a new piece of music.
That's it. Yeah, I'd love to see you reading a chart to see how you do that with your eyes closed.
And no, the eyes are definitely open then.
Yeah. So just excuse me while I type this in just to try and get, because I enjoyed this earlier on too, and I listened to it.
This is from the Melody Maker gig, maybe, Hugh, or the taping?
It seems like
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. This is it. So why don't we just have a listen to this now, because we didn't get a video of the two of you playing together. So John Stowell and Hugh Buckley, Love for Sale.
Very nice.
Lovely.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Nice, guys.
Not bad for two old guys, Hugh.
Speak for yourself, John. Yeah,
That was fun. I hope we get a chance to do it again soon.
yeah, it'd be great to do it again.
So Jeremy
will.
Sawkins was saying two different yet complementary styles, beautiful. John's near vertical guitar placement facilitates his wide interval and cluster harmonic approach. I find I'm playing more in this manner all the time. Mind you, the increasing girth likes it too. The guitar was getting away from me in the horizontal position. And Cassandra, who plays guitar, by the way, said, this is a dream. Two guitarists in a room full of guitars. Magical.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
And Mike Callahan, one of my regular attendees here as well, said, wonderful duet. We're going to have a listen now in a minute to Rafe's Dilemma. And did you figure out who the playwright was yet, or the?
No, you didn't have a look.
I didn't even think to
get the
look. I
name,
was just
no.
listening to the music. I was enjoying the music so much.
No, that's okay. We don't.
Bill Norton. There we go.
Who is it?
Bill Norton.
Phil Norton. Maybe we should just jump straight to that. And John, I'm going to give you a little bit of advance warning. You offered earlier on to play something live. Is that still available?
It
after
certainly
this?
is, if you'd like. I'll keep it short, but I'd love to play something for you all.
Yeah, that would be great. And
Okay.
so why don't I'm going to just play Rafe's Dilemma first while John gets set up.
Brill.
Great.
This isn't a video, but is just the audio. So.
Okay. That's not it. That's some of the Western Union invading our. Here we go.
These four walls, this prison, this place that I live in, built on love, built with love, built to have a roof above. But somehow the rooms keep getting smaller, and we keep falling over each other. The jailer, he chooses, he runs as he sees fit, bound with lies and worries, bound with borrowing and sorry. And still somehow the rooms keep getting smaller, and we keep falling over getting smaller, and we keep falling over.
Wow.
This was just part of an
That's beautiful now.
Thank you very much.
nice, Stell.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that
Is
was
that an
recorded
original?
last year, and we would be recording another album now, but I guess we'll just have to wait until lockdown, finishes, and then we've got some more music coming along. So, yeah, I'm very excited about that project.
So beautiful.
Beautiful,
We're
yeah.
getting a lot. I should read out some
Really
comments here
beautiful,
that
yeah.
are coming in. That I'll take it in the order they appeared, actually. And Cassandra just came in and says, beautiful voice and delivery. Rhodes was perfect accompaniment. I thought so, too. That was some beautiful Fender Rhodes
Sure, yeah.
right there. John Donegan said, really like this. Great delivery and like those intervals. Josephine Smith said, so beautiful. Jeremy Sawkins said, lovely music, shades of Joni and Mingus. And I have to give some credit to Josephine Smith here for saving me from the ultimate rudeness, because I heard the other Hugh earlier on, but I just realized you didn't on the show. So after we have our first live performance of today on this show from John, we're going to play something from Hugh Vincent. So you're not just sitting there and getting away without being heard. Right, so thank you, Josephine, for asking that, because it reminded me, yeah, you know what? I bet he has something of his own. So without further ado, we're gonna bring John Stowell for a live performance. What are you going to play for us, John?
Well, Nell mentioned earlier that she loves Brazilian music. I think we probably all do. So I thought I might do Tom Jobim's Inútil Passagem for you. You know
What's
that
the
one,
name
Nell?
of this one? What's this one?
Very lovely.
It's the English, sometimes it'll be written as If You Never Come to Me or Useless Landscape.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah,
literal
yeah.
translation. So Portuguese, it's Inútil Passagem. And this is usually in C or E flat in the real book. So I'm going to do it in both keys for you guys.
There's a little Jobim for you all.
Hey.
Thank you, guys. First
Nice.
song of the day could have been
Beautiful,
better,
John. Beautiful,
but
yeah.
acceptable.
Yeah,
Thank you, Hugh.
lovely.
Great stuff.
It often sounds. Sorry, Dave. I was going to.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you
Could
go,
you-
Hugh.
No, I was going to say to John. I think I said this to him before, but his guitar playing in the lower register very often sounds like you're detuned or something like that. You seem to get. Maybe it's the intervallic thing you do that it sounds like it's lower than it actually is or something.
I do have actually some baritone
people said
guitars
that-
that I do tune lower.
Yeah,
This one,
I've heard that, but you're not doing there, doing it there,
Yeah,
and
this is
whatever.
concert pitch, Hugh. I'm
I
thinking
think
a
I've
little
said
bit
it to
like
you
a
before.
bass, though. I'm
Yeah.
thinking a little like a bass, so I'm doing some of those kind of articulations with the pick to maybe mimic the sound of the bass a bit, even though the pitch is concert.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it is
interesting. That,
interesting
yeah,
articulation on the
Yeah.
when you play the bass line. There's
yeah,
you're not letting them you're not going for legato all the time.
no, it's almost like a muting
Yeah.
thing or something. I don't know what, but it's
That's exactly right. Yeah, so
yeah.
it's this.
yeah,
So that kind of mimics the sound of the bass a bit.
yeah. That's a characteristic
Thanks for
of your
listening.
style. Yeah,
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
I
Yeah,
appreciate
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you very
My
much.
pleasure. It's a pleasure. Do you sing that one, Nell?
I don't, but there's
That's
a
a good
gorgeous
one.
version which is Esperanza Spalding and Gretchen Parlato do
I've
together.
heard that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's very nice. Very nice.
You know, Jobim wrote, unless you're Brazilian, you play 5 of his songs. He wrote 400. And there's some real gems in there that nobody plays unless you're Brazilian. So I'm on a little crusade to get my friends to learn a few more.
Sounds like a good plan.
I'm up to 12. I'm hardly an authority, but I'm slowly chipping away at the repertoire. There's some beautiful ones. I'd also recommend Ligia if you haven't heard that one. That's a fantastic one.
No, I haven't. Okay. I'll add that to
Writing
the
down
list.
there as you say it. What was the name of the? There was a harmonica player Louis Stewart brought back an album from Spain or from Brazil.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Mauricio Einhorn.
Mauricio Einhorn, incredible.
I don't know
tune.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
man.
Brazilian?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, some incredible.
Mauricio?
Tunes. One of his most famous ones is one called Batida Differente.
Don't know that one.
But every melody this guy wrote was, before we lose mailmen altogether and postmen, but they were the guys, all the delivery guys that used to come to your house would be singing this.
Wow.
Any song. by
Brazilians.
it. I play some of the stuff, but I think he had chronic emphysema and couldn't travel. I think that was part of the problem. Yard Nul as a title. What is that, Hugh?
I mean, Yard Nul is my band. It's an electronic project I did with one of my close friends. That's ongoing. It's my current obsession. The other one, though, is a piano improvisation that I sent. And I did a series of 10 improvisations where I play for 5 minutes every day. And that's the only playing I would do for 10 days. And that's one of them. That's the fourth one. And I was recovering from RSI in my right hand when I did it, so it's really like quite an emotional time. And I think the improvisations reflect that. I'm really proud of them. I think they're great.
So RSI stands for what? This is not
Repetitive stress
repetitive.
injury or repetitive strain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you prefer I play that then, the first?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's go for that. I mean, it's more relevant, I think, for tonight.
Okay, so this is what I love. There's a story behind this. Why this meant so much to you? Because we've had our gigs taken away from us for the most part. So we've come close to the concept of what if music was taken away from us. And you heard when Dana Masters was on the other night, she was saying how, in her case, she could function without it, but could we? And as we go further down the line, if you're, like I said to her the other night, I could probably handle if somebody said, look, you're not going to be able to do this at all, even at home, for 2 months. But if I knew at the end of 2 months there was light at the end of the tunnel, but if I thought it was gone forever, I don't know.
It can't be. There's no way.
Oh
No
no,
way.
the gigs are not gone forever. There's no. I'm just thinking if music itself was taken
Ah,
Oh
for a
yeah.
physical
sure.
reason, you couldn't play anymore. Or,
Yeah.
like you look at
Scary.
Peter Leach over here can't play
Hmm.
anymore, but within a year he was writing ensemble music, and
Brilliant.
I don't know if that was a feature of his life before then, but he he has a large ensemble and nothing could stop him, not even health could stop him from making music. So all right, we'll play this from Hugh. So this is one of his, as they say over here, his improvisations.
Yeah.
This-
That's beautiful, Hugh.
Very
Oh,
nice.
Very nice, Hugh.
Thank you.
Lovely.
That was a nice insight into. We got a little bit from everybody. Thank you, Josephine, for pointing me in that direction because
Yeah.
I was kind of locked into the idea that they don't perform together that much, so there wouldn't be anything for it to play. So that was great. That was a different timbre. Just before I read out who's coming up, John, did you want to give us a reminder of your Facebook Live performance coming up? And Stephen, maybe you could tell us after John tells us that who's coming up on Global Music. So you
Sure.
go first, John.
Great. And Stephen, I'd love to work with you in the future. Maybe we'll have a chance down the line. Please keep me in mind for one of your concerts.
I'll get your contacts from Dave, and we'll.
Yeah, we'll exchange information. There's no obligation, but I'd love to work with you in the future. So I've just got a Facebook Live concert coming up this coming Saturday, 8 p.m. West Coast time. So that's a little early for my European friends, unfortunately. Middle of the night for you guys. But then we'll be doing that probably for 75 minutes or so, give or take, on Saturday, 8 p.m. my time. So anyone in the States or in Asia, I would love to see you.
Awesome. Stephen, what do you have coming up with the
Well,
Global Music online performances?
tomorrow we have a piano player from London called Barry Green, who's living in Holland now, with his wife Rosalie Genet, and she's a vocalist and a songwriter. And then on Saturday it's Dado Moroni, great Italian piano player,
Ah, yeah.
and Sunday is Bruce Barth.
Right, and you have somebody joining me on Saturday night. I can work backwards with this and on here to promote an upcoming one.
Well, he's gonna
Francesco
be on-
Petrini, isn't it?
He's going to be on Tuesday night.
So he's going to be on
and-
Tuesday, but he's going to join us on Saturday to do a little bit of
He is, yeah.
promotion.
He's definitely coming.
So the other guest today, I had to do when you got somebody who's much older, who's never used Zoom. I had to do it earlier on with Larry McKenna.
Oh, how did that go?
Well, we got it. We finally got it. He couldn't hear me, and we kept trying to figure it out. And it was something that just reset itself on my end actually, and we were trying to figure it. But we got it going. So Larry's a beautiful tenor player, and much loved over here. You might have met him in Limerick, Hugh. Did you? He played.
No, but I know who he is. All right, yeah.
so
No, I haven't.
he played
He's a
over
beautiful
Stone.
player. Yeah.
So that's Saturday. Tomorrow, Bruce Foreman and Frank Potenza make a return visit because I think we felt we had unfinished business there last week. So they're going to join me again tomorrow, and then just see what's appearing for next week. Well, Sunday, this calendar runs Sunday onwards. Sunday, Johnny Valentino and Mick Rizzo. They've just released a duo album before we went into lockdown. And Monday, Ronan, Connor and Mike are back. Tuesday, Bill Ware. Wednesday is Antoine Roney. And, the family, you can't get a gig if you're in Ireland if your last name isn't Buckley. And this is living proof. You got Michael Buckley coming up on Thursday, the 28th. And this is going to be an interesting one. Friday, Jimmy Mullador. I just want to read out for you what on his book, his life story, okay? And you'll see what I mean. Just bear with me while he was the house band leader in one of the Vegas casinos. And let's see, Jimmy Mullador book. If I can just pull that up, you'll see okay. The name of the book is The Vegas Player. That's the title of the book itself. And underneath it says, Celebrities, Sex, Drugs, Mafia, Jazz Swinger. So I figure anything that's in his book is game, right? If it's in there in his own book that he's written. So I'll just leave that one right there until we go. And then there's a little space while we're waiting on some people to be scheduled, just catching people up with what's coming down the line. So Tuesday, June 2nd, we have, is that right? Tuesday, June, Richie Buckley. And I haven't talked to him in a long time. And jumping way ahead to, because I'm holding some dates, waiting confirmation. Somebody else who's collaborated with you recently, Hugh, is going to be joining me on June 11th, Flo McSweeney.
Oh yeah,
Come
yeah,
on.
great.
Also, I was talking with Stephen about this the other day. I'm a big boxing fan, so I'm really looking forward to Ray Boom Boom Mancini's going to be on one day, former lightweight champion of the world, who there's a great documentary, or it's not so much a documentary, but a movie made about, there was a big tragedy in the ring for him, and it's, the name of the movie is The Good Son, and I highly recommend it. It's how somebody recovers from one of his opponents dying in the ring, and the impact it has on both families years later. It's just, there's a very beautiful spirit between the widow of the fighter and his son. And I here's the reason it kind of resonated with me. I watched that fight live. I was in the United States then. I watched it on TV, and we didn't know until days later that, you know, he went into a coma. But the place was so crowded you couldn't see in the ring that Ray was celebrating. And sometimes guys in a tight fight where they don't get the decision, they walk out in disgust. And for all he knew, that could have been what happened. He didn't know until afterwards what had happened. So it's I'm actually honored to be able to talk to him, and that would be a small part of what we talk about, because this guy's been in Hollywood and he reinvented with a whole other career. So I want to thank everyone here today. Great to catch up with you, John. We'll do this again sometime, either on or off the air, but
Let's do both.
yeah, we'll do that. Great to hear you. Great to hear you playing. Great to see the video of you and Hugh together. Nell, to hear you for the first time, and Hugh today was a great pleasure to catch up. And Stephen, of course, is flying the flag for live music, and the feeling. I can't overemphasize. It's not about. It's just not about collecting money. It's about the feeling of it. It becomes an event if you have a ticketed event. It's your thing is different than just a live on, one of the stream things. By the fact that people have to make a reservation and do it, it gave the feeling of a concert each time. You know, when I participated and looking at some of the other artists. So you can see that John is approaching things the same way. You put a program together for. You don't just go and wing it live. So I'm going to say goodnight to everyone. Thanks for all the different styles of music that I heard. And I will see you all soon, I hope.
Thanks,
Take care.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, Dave.
See you soon.
Bye.
See you,
Be
Stephen.
well, everybody.
See you, John. Chat soon.
Stay in touch, Hugh. We'll stay in touch.
Nell and Hugh,
Thanks so
lovely to
much,
meet you.
everybody.
Yeah.